million for the continued violation of his rights and fundamental freedoms. Further in his ruling, Justice Mwita indicts Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and other state officials for abusing the powers of their respective offices in deporting the lawyer who is still thousands of miles away in Canada.
The citizenship by birth will not change despite the country adopting a new constitution.
In order to deter future violations, the court has ruled that Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and Immigration Principal Secretary Gordon Kihalangwa to personally pay the damages and costs resultant of the case. Mwita says taxpayers should not shoulder costs of violations by overzealous state officers. The court also ordered the state to return Miguna's passport since it was unlawfully confiscated.
You know, in court, it is a very interesting situation. I love it. All the money I've made in my life, I've made in court.
Miguna has also been awarded a further $207,000 in damages to his house. The controversial and fiery lawyer was seeking to be compensated up to a tune of $274,000 for destruction caused on his house. Mwita said the damages issued to Miguna will act as a deterrent to similar violations of the law. It was after Raila Odinga's mock swearing in that saw self-declared general arrested, detained, and eventually deported for what the state said was taking part in the swearing-in ceremony. But what has never sunk to be understood by Kenyans is why the state arrested the lawyer who commissioned the oath and not the man who took the oath, Raila Odinga. The government claimed that the lawyer with the same name twice is a Canadian national, arguing he never reapplied for his Kenyan citizenship after the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. But what the state has never made clear is how the author of peeling back the mask was cleared to vie for Nairobi gubernatorial seat, which among many other requirements seeks that one must be a Kenyan citizen.
The respondent may not like the petition. They may not even like his abrasiveness, what he says or how he says it. They have a constitutional duty to respect and protect his rights and a fundamental freedom.
During the circus around Miguna's deportation, Fred Matiang'i and Gordon Kihalangwa, whom the court has since termed as overzealous, disobeyed court orders which demanded they appear in court in person to answer to questions surrounding the Miguna case. Well, another ruling is out. Whether or not the state obeys it remains a litmus test. Brian Obuya, KTN News.
Lawyer Miguna there, as he gets $7 million from the courts as damages, which will be paid from the pockets of Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and PS Gordon Kihalangwa. And of course, among the major issues, he says that the judge said that his rights were grossly violated and the two abused their office. Kipkule, it is indeed a big win for Miguna, but should he celebrate just yet? Do you think his troubles are over from that court ruling?
I don't think Miguna should celebrate anything. And in fact, this ruling just stated facts that already existed, because initially, before he was deported, Miguna had been asked by the Immigration Department to make an application so that they regularize his citizenship. And you do not regularize the citizenship of an alien. You regularize that of a citizen. So what has really happened is that the court has stated the obvious, and Miguna should not celebrate. First of all, a lot of water has passed under the bridge, especially politically. And now the political constituency that Miguna enjoyed that will boost him during that time is no longer existent. It has shifted elsewhere. And even if he comes to the airports now, I doubt, apart from relatives and maybe lawyers, in fact, he fired his lawyers, so I don't know who will receive him there. And that critical constituency is no longer with him. And also the agenda of secede and resist and all that movement, the revolutionary movement that is really still talking about, is clearly a general without an army, and there is no more cause. Therefore, coming back will not be easy, and again, the state has appealed this case. Therefore, for me, I don't think there is any cause for Miguna to celebrate yet, because I don't think he's landing in Kenya anytime soon.
Dismas doesn't seem to agree with you. Dismas doesn't seem to agree with you when you say that he's a general without an army and he doesn't have a cost. You still think Miguna stands a chance of gaining clout?
Well, I'm not sure whether all generals need armies in the case of Miguna. But Kipley has managed to mix issues. We are not discussing Miguna's role in the political space in Kenya, whether he's a one-star general or an uncommissioned officer or a senior sergeant. We are discussing about the rule of law and order. And the learned judge has indicated in black and white that the Kenyan Constitution does not allow public servants of rank to step on that book called the Constitution. That you are not going to look at the Constitution, you look at the laws, and you display impunity and mediocrity and corruption while you are in office. He has also stated that in future for public servants who disobey the law with reckless abandon, you are going to be held personally responsible. That you are not going to break the law as a public servant of rank, and then you say, I'm doing this because I'm a state officer. It's going to be visited in you in person. Now, the other question is whether or not actually the fines they're going to pay, or rather the damages will come from their pockets or again from the states. That's a story for an entirely different day. But it's now very clear in black and white that there is a precedent. Now there's going to be an appeal. We don't know the outcome. But at least there is a precedent which has been said that if you're a public servant of rank and you break the rule of law and order, you're going to be held personally responsible. And I'll not be surprised that if a clever lawyer or maybe an activist in the league of Omtata or Boniface Mwangi actually moves to court to say these officers cannot hold a public office, because when they're being sworn into office, they carry the Constitution as well as the Bible. They say we are going to protect the Constitution and we are going to respect the Constitution. So somebody can easily move to court and say these fellas should be declared not fit to hold office. But now we go to the second level. These are Miguna. He's been accused of offenses. Are we going to allow Kenyans, whether they live in Canada or Australia, to break the law, again with abandon? Why didn't the authorities charge Miguna for that swearing in? Because that was really the basis. Why did they charge him? Who did he swear in? Is the person who was sworn in not known? So why did they go to Miguna and they left Raila Odinga all alone? Now, these are the questions we need to start asking ourselves, the selective application of this regime. And in my view, we need more judges like Justice Amwita, who are able to look at the state in the eye and say, you've done a mistake. And the fact that he's indicated that it's going to be personal liability, personal responsibility, is as good in law, what Kipchumba called lifting the veil of incorporation. That you are not going to engage in mischief. Unasema kwamba ni serikali hapana. There are personalities within the government and you shall be held. Now, if you are not going to be held responsible in this administration, there'll be another one.
But did Dismas, over the period when Miguna was being deported, right after the handshake, there were a number of cases that were heard in the courts, and the courts consistently disagreed with the government or the state officials, but they consistently broke the law. Why do we think they will respect this one?
The duty of the judge is to look at that law, look at the evidence, and pronounce himself. Whether or not it's going to be effected is a discussion for another day. At some stage, you may get officers, again now, who are overzealous in the right way, who want to implement this thing. And for instance, you look at the situation of the Akashas. We are told that for some reason in Kenya, the Akashas were found to be patriotic citizens. They respected the rule of law and order. They never broke any law. But wait, in another jurisdiction, they've been found guilty. Even you go to the Usman case, that in Kenya, people are very clean. So at some stage, the law will catch up with you, whether you're in Kenya or whether you're in Uganda or even in Canada. And I think it's important for civil servants to realize that when you are a public servant of rank, you're not supposed to make political decisions in issues which are very clear in black and white. And I suspect that all these cabinet secretaries, principal secretaries, have got access to legal counsel. If they don't have internal legal teams, they've got the attorney general who can advise them. So that if a politician tells you to go and break the law, please speak to your in-house lawyers, speak to the attorney general. Because right now, whoever who gave Matiang'i and Kialanga instructions will not be around to cover them when they are required to give the 7 million. Or maybe if somebody moves to court and says they don't qualify to hold public office.
Okay, husband, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a good thing, and it's setting a very interesting precedence that when we are in political turmoil, powerful politicians will actually use their position for political expediency. And in the line of duty, a few technocrats would be called in to do things that are outside the framework of the law. And I think we've seen this happen for a long period of time, and the judgment by Judge Mwita comes in at a very opportune moment when we have the handshake and people are beginning to learn that going forward, political expediency may not save you from the full arm of the law. And I think whether they appeal or not, just like Dismas has said, a precedent has been set. And even if they appeal, I think the way in which court orders were violated, I'm not so sure that the judiciary as a whole would still want to listen to people who defied the judiciary with reckless abandon, like Dismas puts it. So I'm looking at a situation where, I mean, people will learn lessons. But most importantly, I think there are a number of people who need to, you know, just pay for the sins that they committed during the electioneering period and after the second election that President Uhuru Kenyatta won. I mean, they should be held culpable. If they unleashed terror on people in Kisumu, Migori, lost relatives, I mean, they should pay. If they were responsible for the deaths of Musando and many other people that lost their lives, people should just take responsibility. And I think the judiciary is giving us indication that they have the stamina to do that. But then secondly, coming to the Miguna issue, again, I'm a big fan of Miguna, and I also don't like an aspect of Miguna because I want to believe that there are so many Kenyans right now whose position we already know as far as the political dispensation is concerned. But the way they make a lot of noise on Twitter, everywhere, with renewed psyche, until you ask yourself, what exactly are they bringing on the table that is new? We know their position as far as Uhuru Kenyatta is concerned. We know their position as far as the handshake is concerned. So we technically don't expect anything new from them. But it is also important to note that not much is going to change even if they keep making this noise. And when my friend is talking about a general without soldiers, that is what we are seeing in so many of these guys who don't believe in the handshake. They are lone rangers. I don't think there are so many voices that are supporting people who are anti the handshake, apart from a few who also have their own agenda, who are looking at the handshake as a platform that is likely to coronate someone. And you would understand the few who have those reservations. But looking at Miguna generally, even when he comes, I think you're looking at a situation where you don't know what you'll get. Because in life, I think, generally for most of us, there is always a thin line between genius and insanity. And I think Miguna walks that line. You know, so you don't know when he'll be a genius, when it will be a moment of madness.
But,
and you see,
politically,
yes.
politically, why is Miguna an unwanted man in this country?
Well, you know, let me tell you, if you followed Miguna, you'd understand that Miguna is a brilliant lawyer, brilliant strategist. But I think Miguna has no patience for mediocrity, that is one. And then number two, Miguna has demonstrated, of course, that he's one man who can work with you, but when you disagree ideologically, he can also come forcefully and fight you. So it doesn't matter who Miguna wants to align himself with. I think people are just apprehensive of the persona that he brings on board. This thin line, you don't know whether you'll get the genius of him or the madness. And I think when you get the madness, it can be bad. I think Raila has experienced that. President Uhuru Kenyatta, I think, you know, and the deputy president have consistently been branded by Miguna as the despotic duo, you know. And I don't think anyone would want to, you know, this is the guy who at some point was saying that he will help President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto teach Raila Odinga a lesson, you know. And he said that he helped them teach Raila Odinga a lesson in 2013. Then immediately after the election that Uhuru competed against himself and won, he came back to Raila and said, now he's a general. But right now what he calls Raila, I mean, I don't think there's anyone who would be comfortable, even if Miguna say that, you know, you have everything that it takes to lead this nation. They would say, it's okay, but please support somebody else.
Kipchumba, what do you think?
I will not digress to the noise around Miguna. I will just try to solve the legal issues around them. I think as a country, we must sustain the implementation of the constitution that we gave ourselves in 2010, in August 2010. Miguna happens to be a man born in a village somewhere known as Kanyilum village in Nyando, Kisumu County.
All right, just give us 1 minute. I'm coming back to you. As a lawyer on the panel, it will be very interesting for you to give us your legal views on that. But Dismas, why do you think Miguna is unwanted politically? Because, like Kipkulei mentioned, his biggest accusation is the swearing in. But was he there alone?
Well, the reason why most politicians are uncomfortable with Miguna is because he's unpredictable. You could be having a conversation with him right now and he's your very solid supporter, but at the moment you cross paths, he's going to reveal everything to whoever who cares to listen. He's like the kind of person you have in a relationship, the kiss and tell. So you do your things in the cover of darkness, and when you wake up in the morning, it's all over social media. There's not a single politician who would like to keep the company of Miguna. Because you're going to be developing a strategy right now, and you'll probably do the strategy paper. But as soon as you probably fail to meet an obligation at 4 o'clock, you will run to the enemy camp and, spill the beans. I think that one doesn't work in his favor. But be that as it may, we are not supposed to be really discussing the personality of Miguna. Because you see the politicians, nobody forces a politician to work with Miguna. It's because you like him. And he's very good at propaganda. He's among the few analysts on TV who have the capacity.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10.
As Will has indicated, most people will be delighted not to have Miguna supporting him. You'd like to keep him at bay, because you never know. He could be doing for you that strategy paper right now, and before you can say your name, it's with he's done a news conference, or it's with the competition.
Kipule.
Yeah, I think I also still want to go back to what I said and stand by it, because when I said Miguna is a general without an army, the idea is this. When Miguna was coronating himself as a general within that bandwagon of the resist and the secede movement, Raila Odinga was in the picture. They were fighting for Raila Odinga, and with the handshake, things have changed. And with that change, the same constituency, which was now firmly behind them in this resist and secede agenda, which is what made Miguna a general and thus relevant in our politics at that time, has been decimated. It has been appeased. It is no longer palatable to go to that constituency and tell them I'm a revolutionary, because the idea of the handshake was unity, and you saw what happened in Kisumu. So I think it will be doublespeak to say here or assume that he'll come to a rapturous reception, yet we know that constituency no longer exists. It has moved on. It is now embracing the handshake. It's actually the core group that is backing the handshake. So going forward, I think the challenge that Miguna finds himself is that, well, on the point of the rule of law, I started by saying that the court stated that which was obvious and had already been done, that Miguna is a Kenyan citizen by birth. That one had not been violated, and I think on the question of rule of law, that is quite straightforward. We all know. But again, we need to go back and interrogate the process of how Miguna maybe acquired Canadian citizenship at a time when Kenya was not a dual citizenship regime. Therefore, with that, it meant that he reacquired Kenyan citizenship through a process which was now termed as regularization, which is now the point that this thing has ended up in court and all that.
But
because the lawyer is here,
always been, Miguna had been in government. Yeah. When did we start interrogating how he acquired his
document?
The timing was very suspect.
You also ran for governor.
Yeah.
Yes, the timing was very suspect.
Let me tell you this. Okay, Kipchumba, just a minute.
Yeah? Let me help them interpret something.
Let's give him.
There is a time when the former DCJ, the one before
Baraza.
No, Baraza, the person who took over Kalpana Rawal, Tonui and team. We did something and we said we were in the new constitutional dispensation and that our constitution was effectively retrogressive. We said if you are hired under the new constitution and you are supposed to retire at 74, we forced them to retire at 70. That was the position. But when it comes to Miguna, there is a fun way we are interpreting the constitution. We want to take away Miguna's right using the old constitution, section 93(7). Why the double standards? If we move to the new constitution, all rights should be enjoyed under the new constitution. There is another thing that also must be understood. Miguna is born of both Luo parents in Kanyaming village. Okay. There is the other thing you must understand. When you are born by birth, you are a Kenyan eternally. Okay. The only thing that can take away that thing, that Kenyan in you, if you return to where you came from, and you know where people come from. So, Miguna has not done that.
Kipchumba, we're coming back with you. Yes, just finish
my
your
point was
statement.
that
We're
a
coming back to
document
Kipchumba.
issued by state is also as good as the procedure that it is procured under. But that is a matter before courts, and